It was a quiet evening in the small town of Stonehill. The sky was turning orange as the sun went down. Jake, a young man in his late 20s, sat on his front porch with a cup of coffee in hand. Life had always been simple here. No noise. Number. Trouble. Just peace. But that peace was about to change. Jake heard a strange sound. Not loud, just unusual. It came from the old house next door, the one that had been empty for years. He stood up and looked over the fence. Something shiny and silver stood in the backyard. It looked like a small spaceship, smooth, with glowing blue lights. Before Jake could understand what it was, the door of the ship opened with a soft hiss. And then she stepped out. She was tall, with pale violet skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Her hair was long and silver, and her eyes were large, glowing faintly like stars. She wore a long black robe that moved like smoke around her. She didn't look dangerous. In fact, she looked sad. Jake froze. He had never seen anything like her. The woman looked around slowly, as if she was lost. Then she walked quietly into the house without even noticing Jake. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. Who was she? Where did she come from? Was she even human? His heart beat faster every time he thought about her face, those eyes filled with pain. The next morning, Jake walked over to her house. He knocked gently. No answer. He knocked again. Still nothing. He waited. Finally, the door opened just a little. The woman looked at him, calm but distant. Yes? She said, her voice soft. Like a whisper in the wind. Jake cleared his throat. Hi, I'm Jake. I live next door. I just wanted to say, welcome. She nodded but said nothing. I saw your ship, he said carefully. She looked him in the eyes, then closed the door slowly without a word. Jake stood there for a moment, confused. Then he walked back home. That night, Jake watched from his window. The lights in her house never turned off. He saw her standing at the window, staring at the sky. She looked lonely, so lonely it hurt to watch. Days passed. She never came outside during the day. But at night, she always stood near her window, looking up, like she was waiting for something. Or someone. One evening, it started raining. Heavily. Jake was reading when he heard a knock on the door. Surprised, he opened it. It was her. She was soaking wet, shivering slightly. But her eyes, those sad, glowing eyes, were full of something else this time. Fear. Please, she said. I need your help. Jake stepped aside. Come in. She walked in slowly, looking around the house. She seemed nervous. Her hands were shaking. My name is Sarana, she said. I come from a planet called Elvarus. I've lost everything. Jake listened quietly. My husband was a soldier, she continued. He died in a war we didn't ask for. After he died, I escaped. I've been running ever since. They're still looking for me. Who are they? Jake asked softly. She didn't answer. Instead, she looked down. I don't have anyone left, she whispered. And now, I'm scared they've found me again. Jake felt a strange mix of feelings. Fear, curiosity, but most of all, sympathy. You're safe here, he said, though he wasn't sure it was true. She looked at him, almost surprised. Then, slowly, she smiled. It was small, but real. I don't want to be alone anymore, she said. I can't be. Jake nodded. You're not alone. Outside, the rain kept falling. But inside, something had changed. Two strangers, now connected by fate. Jake woke up in the middle of the night, sweating. He had seen something in his dream. A burning planet, a tall man in black armor falling in battle, and Sarana screaming his name. Jake sat up, heart pounding. The dream felt real, too real. The house was quiet. But something told him she was awake too. He looked out his window. Across the fence, The light in Sarana's living room was on. She was standing there, still as a statue, looking at a small glowing object in her hands. He didn't know why, but Jake felt he had to go to her. He put on his jacket and stepped out into the cold night air. When he knocked this time, the door opened without a word. Sarana stood there, her silver hair loose around her face, her eyes tired but calm. In her hands, she held a small cube, floating, glowing with shifting lights. "You saw it, didn't you?" she asked quietly. Jake blinked. "Saw what? The dream? The fire? The end of my world." He stepped inside. "How do you know?" She closed the door behind him. "Because I shared it with you." Jake sat on the couch, confused. "You shared your dream with me?" "No," she said, sitting across from him. "Not just a dream. A memory." Jake stared at her. "What are you?" Sarana looked down at the cube. "A widow," she whispered. "Nothing more." The cube floated up and opened, projecting a glowing image into the air. Jake saw a man, tall, strong, proud. He wore armor like a warrior. His eyes were kind. He looked at Sarana and the memory, smiling. "My husband," she said softly. His name was Tyrell. He was the captain of the Sky Guard, defender of Elvarus. Jake watched the memory play out. Explosions, warships, screams. Tyrell running into battle. "He died protecting our people," Sarana continued. "But in the end, we lost. The enemy took our cities, our sky, our stars." Jake swallowed. "Who were they?" Sarana's face darkened. "They are called the Drexen, a species born in shadow. They want control, power. They wipe out any world that resists." Jake's hands clenched. "And now, they're after you." She nodded. "I escaped with a secret, something they need. Something only I can protect." "What secret?" Jake asked. Sarana looked at him, eyes full of storm. "I'll tell you. But only if you promise me something." Jake paused. "What?" She stood up, walked to the window, and stared at the stars. "Don't leave me," she said. "No matter what happens, promise me. You won't turn away." There was silence. Just the sound of the wind outside. Jake stood and joined her. "I don't understand everything yet," he said. "But I'm not going anywhere." Sarana looked at him then, really looked. For the first time, Jake saw how alone she truly was. Not just across planets, but across her soul. "I used to be strong," she whispered. "But now I'm only afraid." Jake gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll be afraid together." Suddenly, the glowing cube flickered violently. It turned red. Sarana grabbed it. "No, no, no, no." "What's happening?" Jake asked. "They found me." Her voice was shaking. "They're close." Jake felt a chill down his spine. "But how?" he asked. Sarana turned to him. "Because I opened my heart. And now they can trace it." The lights in the room dimmed. A high-pitched tone filled the air for just a second, like a scream from space. Sarana looked at Jake with fear in her eyes. "I've made a mistake. I brought danger to your world." Jake's fists tightened. "Then let's fix it." She stared at him, surprised. "You don't even know me," she said. Jake gave a small smile. "I'm starting to." The cube glowed again. This time, blue. A warning, but also a chance. Sarana closed her eyes. "Then we run. Tonight, before it's too late." Jake nodded. "Let's go." Outside, the stars looked peaceful, but something dark was already on its way. Jake didn't remember falling asleep, but when he opened his eyes, he wasn't in his bed. He was floating above a glowing white ocean. The sky was green. The stars moved like fireflies. Strange shapes flew through the air, smooth, silver. Birds with no wings, and right there, standing on the water like it was solid glass, was Sarana. She wore a crown made of light. Her eyes glowed brighter than before. She lifted her hand toward Jake. "Come back," she whispered. Jake reached for her and then suddenly gasped awake. He was in his room again, chest rising, heart pounding, sweat on his forehead. What was that? It was the third night in a row. 3 nights, 3 dreams. And in every one, he was not himself. He was someone else, somewhere else. He walked to the mirror. His skin looked normal. But when he pulled back his sleeve, he saw it again, faint glowing lines on his arm, like alien letters drawn with light. Jake grabbed his hoodie and went outside. The night was cold. Sarana's lights were on. He knocked. She opened the door, already knowing it was him. "You dreamed again," she said softly. Jake nodded. "What's happening to me?" Sarana stepped aside, letting him in. "You're connecting to me," she said. "It's not on purpose." "Our minds are starting to sync," Jake frowned. "Why?" "Because you let me in," she said. "You listened, you stayed. No one ever has." She walked over to her floating cube. This time, it showed a glowing tree, its roots wrapped around stars. "This is called the meld. On my planet, it only happens between 2 who trust each other deeply. It is rare, powerful, dangerous too." Jake sat down. "So? I'm sharing." "Your thoughts? Your memories?" She nodded. "And maybe more." Jake stood up. "It feels like I'm becoming someone else." "No," she said, stepping close to him. "You're becoming more of yourself." Suddenly, the walls shook. A small vibration. Sarana froze. "They're scanning again." Jake looked around. "They're close, aren't they?" She nodded slowly. "If they find us before the meld is complete, we won't survive." Jake stared at her, then at his glowing arm. "Why me?" he asked. "Why not someone from your world?" "Because they're all gone," she said, her voice breaking. She walked to the window and looked up at the stars. "I watched my world burn. I watched my people fall. I ran because I was the last. And the secret I carry, they'd kill to get it." Jake walked to her side. "And what is the secret?" Sarana looked at him, eyes shining with tears. "That I was not just a wife, I was a gatekeeper." Jake blinked. "A gatekeeper?" She turned to him. "The Drexen don't just destroy worlds, they steal life itself. I hold the key to stop them, but I need someone human, to activate it. Your world is the last place they haven't touched. That's why I came here." Jake stared at her in silence. Then he laughed softly. "So I'm not just some guy with a lonely neighbor. I'm part of something cosmic now." Sarana gave a weak smile. "Yes, and you still have a choice." Jake looked at his arm. The lights were brighter. "Now, I think the choice has already been made." Just then, boom, a loud thunder shook the sky. Jake ran outside. The clouds were glowing red. A ship, black, sharp, and silent, hovered above the forest near the edge of town. Sarana stood at the door. "It's them." Jake looked back. "We can't run anymore, can we?" She shook her head. "No, but now you are not alone." Jake looked at her, feeling something strange inside. Not just fear. Not even love. It was destiny. The power went out. Everything. The lights, the clocks, even Jake's phone shut off at the same time. Only one thing still glowed in the room. Sarana's eyes. She stood in the center of the darkness, breathing slowly, her palms raised toward the ceiling. A faint light circled her like mist. "Stay calm," she whispered. "This is not an attack. This is a memory." Jake blinked. "What do you mean?" Sarana turned toward him. Her voice sounded distant, like she was speaking through time itself. "The meld has reached its peak. Now you will see who I truly am." Suddenly, the room disappeared. The walls melted into light. Jake was no longer standing. He was floating inside a crystal palace surrounded by stars. Giant towers of glass reached toward a purple sky. Below him, a planet shimmered with rivers of gold and forests that glowed in the dark. And there she was, Sarana, wearing a robe of silver and blue, walking slowly up a staircase of light. All around her, thousands of beings bowed. "She's not just a widow," Jake whispered. "She's royalty." A voice echoed in the air. She was born Sarana Valthari, first daughter of the throne of Elvarus, keeper of the celestial seed. Jake's eyes widened. He turned and saw a younger Sarana, laughing, dancing, speaking to crowds. She wasn't hiding, she was leading. Then the scene changed. Flames, warships, the palace falling into the sea of stars, and Sarana, running, holding a small glowing orb. Close to her chest, alone, the vision ended. Jake was back in his living room, but now he couldn't look at her the same way. "You were a queen," he said. She nodded slowly. "Not anymore." Jake stared at her. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because people follow queens," she said. "But they don't love them. I didn't want you to help me because of duty. I wanted you to choose." Jake looked at his glowing arm. The light was no longer just a line. It now looked like a mark, a royal symbol, pulsing gently. "This mark? It came from you?" "Yes," she said. "It means you're bonded to the seed. You're the only one who can unlock it now." Jake stepped back. "This is too much. I was just a normal guy a week ago." Sarana's voice shook. "You still can be? Just walk away." Jake looked at her. She wasn't glowing anymore. She looked tired, small, human, but he couldn't walk away. "You lost your world," he said. "I'm not going to let you lose yourself too." She looked at him, her lips trembling. "If you stay with me, they'll come after you. They'll try to break you, like they broke him." Jake stepped closer. "Your husband?" She nodded. "He wasn't just my partner. He was meant to protect the seed, but they caught him before the bond was complete. They took everything." Jake felt a strange pain in his chest. Not his own. Hers. "I'm not him," Jake said. "But I'm here." Sarana's hands reached for his. Slowly, carefully, like she was touching hope for the first time. "And if I asked you," she whispered, "not as a queen, but as a lonely woman with no world left, would you stay?" Jake looked into her eyes. There were galaxies inside them. Wounds too. He didn't speak. He just nodded. Outside, the black ship in the forest powered up. A signal shot into space, fast, silent, deadly. Inside, Sarana held Jake's hand tighter. "They know," she said. "They'll bring war now." Jake looked at her with a strange calm. "Then let them come." And behind his eyes, the symbol on his arm blazed brighter. The moon didn't look right. Jake stared at it through the kitchen window. It was too close, too large, too still. Then he saw it, a small black dot moving slowly across the moon's surface. Not a star, not a plane, a ship. "They're here," Sarana said quietly behind him. She didn't ask. She already knew. She stepped forward and touched the glass. The lights in the room flickered. Jake could feel it too, like gravity had changed, like the air had a pulse. "What do we do?" he asked. Sarana didn't answer. She walked to the table and opened the silver case she had kept sealed since her arrival. Inside was a small disc, dark and metallic. It floated up the moment she opened the case and began to glow with a red ring around it. "It's a beacon," she said. "A shield, a weapon, and a message." Jake stepped closer. "A message?" Sarana turned to him, to the Drexen. "That? I am not running anymore." Jake was about to ask more, but the house shook suddenly. A low boom rolled across the town like a distant thunderclap dot out the window. A ripple spread across the clouds. Then he saw them. Small, sharp ships, like black needles, cutting through the sky without sound. They're scanning the area. Serana said, looking for me, and now for you too. Jake's hands trembled. Why don't they just destroy the town? Because they want the seed intact, she replied. They want me alive. For now. Another deep hum filled the air, this one closer. Jake's ears popped out suddenly. Every electronic device in the house lit up, TV, phone, even the toaster, all flashing one word in red alien script. Serana translated aloud, surrender the gatekeeper. One life or many? Jake stared. There? Threatening the town. Serana nodded. It's how they win. They make you choose. They make you feel small. Jake turned to her, fire rising in his voice. Then let's show them we're not small. Serana looked at him, truly looked and saw it. He was changing. The mark on his arm had grown again. The lines now pulsed with energy. His heartbeat had synced to the cube without him realizing. You're stabilizing, she whispered, faster than anyone I've ever seen. Jake frowned. Stabilizing what? You're bonding to the seed. You're becoming what Tyrell never had the time to be. Outside, another blast shook the air. The sky was darker now. Town sirens were beginning to wail in the distance. Jake grabbed his coat. Serana blinked. Where are you going? Jake looked back, calm and steady. To stand in the open. Let them see me. Serana stepped forward, grabbing his arm. No. If they see you, they'll target you. You're not ready. Jake looked into her eyes. Maybe not. But we can't keep hiding. Not anymore. She stared at him, torn between fear and pride. Then she handed him the floating disc. If you feel danger, think of me. The shield. We'll activate. Jake took the disc. It felt warm, alive. He stepped outside. The wind was thick, heavy like smoke. The clouds twisted above like something alive. And then a spotlight dropped from the sky, right on him. A black ship hovered above, silent, waiting. Jake held up the disc. Nothing happened, but he didn't run. Suddenly, a voice echoed across the Kaskawastia street from the ship, translated into English. You are not the gatekeeper. Jake spoke back, loudly, clearly. No, I'm something new. Silence. Then, a beam of light shot from the ship, heading straight toward him. Before it could hit, the disc flashed. A blue shield exploded around Jake like a bubble, stopping the blast cold. The energy scattered like fireworks. In Serana's house. Alarms went off. He activated the shield, she whispered, stunned, without command. Outside, the ship backed off, confused. Jake stepped forward. Go back to your shadows. She's not alone anymore. The ship hovered, then vanished into the clouds. For now. Jake turned and walked back inside. Serana was waiting by the door. She looked at him like he was someone new. You were never meant to be part of this, she said. Jake placed the disc back in her hand. Maybe I was, he said. Maybe this is why you landed next to me. Serana took a shaky breath. They'll return, stronger, angry. Jake nodded. Let them. This time, we fight together. The stars looked different that night. Brighter, closer. Jake stood on the roof, staring at the sky, wondering if any of them still had people on them. People like Serana. People who had lost everything and still kept fighting. Behind him, soft footsteps approached. Serana. She sat down beside him, pulling her cloak around her shoulders. Her silver hair moved gently with the wind. They will return, she said. I know, Jake replied. They won't stop. I know that too. Silence passed between them like a tide. Then Sarana spoke again, softer this time. The meld is nearly complete, and when it is, you'll have to make a choice. Jake turned to her. What kind of choice? She looked up at the stars, the kind no one can help you with. Jake waited. Sarana took a long breath. There is something I didn't tell you, something I couldn't, not until now. Jake's heart picked up. I wasn't just bonded to Tyrell. By love, she said. We were chosen. The seed only activates through a sacred bond, one that connects more than just bodies. It connects souls. Jake stared at her, uncertain. What are you saying? Sarana turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly. You and we're not just allies now. The seed has accepted you. And that means it's asking for the final link. Jake swallowed. And what is that? She hesitated, then whispered, You must become my husband. The words hung in the air like frozen mist. Jake blinked. You mean married? In your language, yes, she said. But on my world, it's more than ceremony. It's permanent, unbreakable. If we complete the bond, your mind and mine will never be separate again. Jake stood up. Sarana, this is huge. I know, she said. That's why I didn't ask before. That's why I waited. He paced the roof. So you're saying, if I say yes, the seed activates and we might have a chance to stop the Drexen? Yes, and if I say no? Sarana's voice dropped. Then it stays locked. And I'll run again, alone, until they catch me. Jake turned to her. But why me? I'm just a guy from Earth. You're more than that now, she said. You opened your heart when I was nothing but a shadow. You stayed when I was broken. You saw me. Jake looked down at his arm. The mark glowed stronger than ever, wrapping around his wrist like a living ring. He looked back at her. You're not asking for help, he said quietly. You're asking for a future. She nodded. Her voice shook. And I'm terrified of your answer. Jake sat beside her again. He could feel her heart beating, not just in her chest, but through the bond between them, a rhythm in the air. In the stars, he thought about Earth, about his small life, his quiet house, his job, his routines. Then he thought about Sarana. Everything she'd lost, everything she carried, and the strength she still had. He didn't love her. Not yet. But he could. And maybe that was enough. Jake reached for her hand. Okay, I choose you. Sarana's eyes filled with tears. She touched his forehead gently. You don't know what this means. I don't need to, he said. I trust you. At that moment, the mark on his arm flared gold. The sky cracked with the thunder that made the air shiver. A beam of light shot from Sarana's cube, rising into space like a signal flare. The seed had awakened somewhere beyond the moon. Black Drexen ships turned, and they began their final descent. The sky was on fire. Above the earth, 10 Drexen warships burned across the atmosphere like falling stars. Cities below saw them and called them comets. No one knew the truth, but Jake did, and so did Sarana. They stood side by side on the mountain ridge above Stonehill, watching the enemy arrive. Jake's arm glowed gold, not faint lines anymore, but full armor of light wrapping around his skin. Sarana wore her true robes now, silver with stars stitched into the fabric, the crest of Elvarus glowing at her chest. This is it, she whispered, the final stand. Jake nodded. Feels bigger than me. It is, she said. But you're not small anymore. Suddenly, the sky cracked open. A black Drexen flagship emerged from the clouds. Twice the size of a city, its hull covered in glowing red scars. It stopped directly above them. Jake stepped forward. How do we stop that? Sarana raised her hand. The floating seed orb appeared between them, spinning fast, humming like a living heart. Together, she said. That's how. The seed responded to their touch. It projected a radiant beam into the sky. Symbols filled the air around them, alien words, codes, memories, and emotion. Jake was inside her mind now. He could see her childhood, her rise as a queen, her wedding, her loss, her pain, and her final hope, him. He closed his eyes and let her see his his lonely nights, his small forgotten dreams. His heart, bruised but still open. The seed pulsed once, then again, and then it burst into a storm of gold light. From that light, a shield expanded, not just around them, but around the town, the region, the earth. The Drexen ships fired. The beams hit the shield and shattered into harmless sparks. They're trying to overload it, Serana said. They'll keep pushing until it breaks. Then we push back, Jake said. The seed cracked open like a shell, revealing a crystal core inside. Jake reached for it, handshaking as he touched it. His voice changed. He didn't speak English. He spoke Elvarian. By the bond of fire and sky, by the oath of the seed, I stand as her shield, as her husband, as her equal. Serana gasped. Those were ancient words, only royalty knew them. The seed responded. Light shot through Jake's chest, not pain, but power. The earth below felt it. Animals paused. Wind stopped. Even time seemed to slow. And in the sky, the Drexen flagship cracked. Its commander screamed in rage. He sent out drones. Hundreds of them. Black, insect-like machines diving down like a swarm. Jake stepped forward. With a wave of his hand, the drones exploded mid-air. Serana smiled. You've become the key. Jake looked back at her. No, we became it together. The seed sent a final signal, not to the Drexen, but beyond them. To survivors. To other worlds. To those who still resisted in secret. The Queen had returned, and her chosen stood with her. The Drexen flagship made one last move, a final cannon charging, meant to destroy everything. Jake looked at Serana. She nodded. Together, they raised their hands. The cannon fired. So did they. Two beams met in the sky, and the darkness shattered. The flagship broke apart, crumbling like stone. The Drexen scattered, lost, leaderless. The sky went quiet. Jake fell to his knees, exhausted. Serana caught him. It's over, she whispered. No, Jake said, smiling. It's beginning. He looked at her, not as a stranger, not as a queen, but as his partner. And she looked at him, not as a warrior, not as a protector, but as her choice. My queen. He said softly. My husband, she replied, tears in her eyes. Above them, the stars shimmered again, brighter than ever. And somewhere far away, another planet lit up in response. The universe had a message now. Elvarys lives, and Earth had answered the call.